Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, a game created by Rocksteady Studios. The developers behind the wildly popular and successful Batman Arkham franchise. We waited 9 years for their triumphant return to gaming. But what we got was a game with a massive identity crisis. Today, I'm going to talk about my experience with Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and why I think they put the genre first and everything else second. Let's get into it. But first and foremost, if you've been watching my content for a little bit, please consider subscribing. I post content weekly, and you don't want to miss a thing. Thanks. Story. But don't you worry, I won't have any spoilers in this. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a Batman Arkham continued game, technically making it the 4th or 5th installment in the franchise. But the heart and soul that makes Batman Arkham a Batman Arkham game is no longer present, but that doesn't mean that what remains doesn't accomplish what it's set out to accomplish. This game follows a group of supervillains who's recently been released from Arkham Asylum by a woman named Amanda Waller to form a new team called Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad. The good news, they've been released from prison. The bad news, they've had bombs implanted in their heads and have been tasked to stop supervillain Brainiac, who's recently captured the Justice League and put the entire team underneath his control, turning them into homicidal maniacs. Upon this discovery, they've come to realize that the only way to stop them and to save the world is to kill Earth's mightiest heroes. And this isn't a spoiler, but kill them, you do. This game's overall tone is dark comedy, and I rather enjoyed that aspect of the story. Lots of the jokes landed for me, especially King Shark and Captain Boomerang.
Oh, shit!
I feel like lots of people nowadays don't take games at face value, or they've lost their sense of humor somewhere along the way. But this game's story was never meant to be taken seriously like Arkham Knight. I mean, the game's name is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and perhaps that's just not what you're into, and that's okay. Not every game is going to please everybody, but for me, I found myself deeply invested in the cutscenes for the most part, and most importantly, I found them fun to watch. Some of the story beats near the middle and ending of the game started to pull away from me some, but majority of the set pieces within the game I found to be the highlights for the overall experience. Graphics and enemy variety. There's no denying that the graphics in this game and the motion capture is absolutely beautiful, but that's just within the cutscenes. For the most part, this game's incredibly polished, but within the gameplay, it does seem like the graphics have taken a huge hit in favor of the multiplayer aspects. I've also experienced some bugs with character AI, considering this is meant to be a 4-player co-op game that they're trying to package as a single-player experience, and in many ways, I think the overall graphical presentation suffers from it. Compared to Rocksteady's prior Arkham trilogy, those games really showcase what they're capable of. And I must admit that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League left me disappointed. Metropolis at times looks beautiful, and Brainiac's ship is astonishing. The art direction is about what you would expect from a Rocksteady game, but the lack of enemy variety and enemy factions besides Brainiac's army is very underwhelming, and honestly, it was lazy. They could have used entire teams of enemy henchmen taken over by Brainiac from other villains within the DC lore, and made something truly special. Maybe it'll be incorporated later within one of the free DLCs, but for now as the game stands, is rather repetitive. And deadass, the game should already be complete from the day I bought the game. Gameplay and Traversal. When I initially picked up Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, God, I will never forgive them for making the name that long. I was having a blast with the gameplay. I thought the gunplay felt smooth and snappy, with a heavy emphasis on aim assist. All 4 characters have their own independent traversal, which I find the best aspect of the gameplay, and you're able to swap between any of them at the drop of a dime. Getting the hang of each character's traversal was rather confusing, especially swapping characters mid-fight. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but the tutorial forces you to learn the basics of all 4 characters out the gate, and it would have worked far better if we all picked a character and played the campaign with that specific character first, and really mastered that playstyle, then moved on to the next one with the only shared space on a save file being the vault to share loot between characters. Each character plays so different, and traversal requires different button combos, so it's really not a smooth transition until you get the hang of it all. As I've stated earlier, you'll also be fighting the same enemy faction practically the entire game, and they no lie replay the same 2 to 3 mission structures the whole time, and it was wildly disappointing to me once I made that realization. I was enjoying the cutscenes so much, but the way the story missions are structured, it just doesn't make any sense to me. They have missions such as killing enemies grenades only, or through killing enemies while shield harvesting, which is where you shoot them in the leg and then melee them. They're strangely specific, and honestly it adds no value to the game overall besides annoy you. I deadass would love for them to remove that aspect from the game entirely. It's already bad enough that the entire gameplay centers around you jumping from the same 3 rooftops at any given time during encounters, and they no joke recycle the same 4 to 5 missions regardless of where you're at within the story. The only portions of the game that stand on their own are the Riddler trophies and the boss fights. And even with majority of the boss fights, you just shoot them. The only fight with a slight gimmick is the Green Lantern fight, and besides that, the combat is just far too chaotic playing solo. For the love of God, stop making 4-player multiplayer games and trying to package them as if they can be a solo adventure as well. It wasn't great when Gotham Knights did it, and it's not great here either. As legendary developers who's made some of the best single-player action-adventure superhero games of all time, you might think that they would know what their fans actually want by now, but I guess not. I'm all for experimenting and trying new things, but it's hard to back this up when I know what Rocksteady is capable of and what they can create, and Suicide Squad's combat is not them at their best. Deadshot. Out of the entire squad, Deadshot was who I spent the most time with and who I enjoyed the most. His jetpack was the best traversal wise, and I liked his weapons as well. Each character in the game gets access to 3 weapons out of the 6 weapon types, and Deadshot has access to sniper rifles, pistols, and assault rifles, and you can equip any 2 of them at any given time. I found the sniper rifle and pistol to be my favorite combo for him. The game does try to add skill trees for each character, but they don't really add much besides added number bonuses for increased DPS, and they don't impact gameplay really in any substantial way. Instead of a traditional melee, Deadshot uses hand pistols, which I can honestly say is the worst aspect of his playstyle, but overall as a whole, I think Deadshot is the most well-rounded character in the game. King Shark. My second favorite character to play as was King Shark, and it's primarily because his traversal was so fluid. He has a high jump as well as a slam ability, which damages any enemies in that particular area, along with a practically unlimited air dodge that helps him move around the rooftops quickly. King Shark's 3 weapons are heavy weapons, shotguns, and assault rifles, with my favorite combos being heavy weapons and shotguns. His melee weapons are different knives and cleavers, and I found it to be the most traditional melee combat wise. I found King Shark to be hilarious in this game, and a ton of fun to play as. The only thing holding him back is the weapon selection for me. If he had a better weapon selection to choose from, then he would have 100% been the most played character for me, but his combat is more suited for up close and personal gameplay, and I like things with a little bit more precision and range. Harley Quinn. Now, for my least favorite character in the game, I cannot stress it enough how much I think that they fumbled the bag with Harley Quinn. Her traversal is an absolute joke and just feels flat out bad to play. She seemingly has Batman's gadgets that she acquired from the beginning of the game, and she swings back and forth like Spider-Man, but not as good. And to make matters worse, if you're not constantly diving with her as you swing, then it's a one-time swing and you must land to recharge. It kills all momentum with her traversal. We should at least have 2 swings before we need to recharge. Nothing with her character feels fluent, and I don't like it at all. Her weapons don't make things any better either. She has heavy weapons, pistols, and submachine guns. It's most definitely the weakest combination of any weapons for any character in this game. Melee combat also sees Harley using baseball bats, hammers, and mallets, which are all very fitting, but melee in this game is essentially boiled down to the equivalent of a finisher, and compared to Harley Quinn's incredible baseball bat-centric melee combat from Arkham Knight, it makes Suicide Squad's Harley look like some sort of sick joke and huge missed opportunity. Captain Boomerang. Now, for this game's buffoon and comic relief, Captain Boomerang, aka Boomer. Boomerang's traversal takes inspiration from the Flash, and he utilizes the Speed Force to be able to teleport long distances, run fast up buildings, and dash across rooftops. I must say, I found his traversal incredibly fun, and I enjoyed how fast he can span the entirety of Metropolis while playing as him. Boomerang's 3 main weapons are sniper rifles, shotguns, and submachine guns, and I found it to be my second favorite character in the game based off weapon selection. For his melee, he flings his boomerang at enemies, and I enjoyed how fast he can fling it coupled with the use of its range. I found it to be rather useful for shield harvesting as Captain Boomerang, and it really helps his survivability. He's not necessarily my favorite to play as overall, but he has great potential, and I think in the right hands, he could be an absolute force. Loot. The loot was surprisingly far better than I anticipated in this game. Almost all the high tier weapons were well designed and looked cool as shit. Just like any looter shooter, the white, blue, green, and in this game's case, purple weapons get phased out and dismantled fairly quickly. I'm unsure why they felt the need to have 4 low tier weapon types and 3 high tier weapons that actually come with unique perks when the game was actually relatively short. It would have benefited this game a bunch if they just narrowed down some of the lower tier weapons and currencies, because right now they serve absolutely no purpose quickly into the game. Yellow color loot is where they start utilizing special perks on weapons, and the game starts to show off the unique manufacturers in the game, like LexCorp weapons or GCPD weapons. I mean, that is actually pretty sick. and it's exactly what I wanted from this game once I heard it was going to be a looter shooter. But beyond that, we get essentially 2 tiers of exotic weapons, which the game labels as notorious weapons and infamous weapons. They're all based on and centered around different DC comic villains, and carry their own unique lore, perk combos, and designs. Both of these kinds of weapons can go hand in hand, and if you pair them correctly, then you can activate strong hidden perks, making build crafting rather deep once you hit the endgame. They have weapons themed on Black Mask, Bane, Two-Face, and even Bizarro, with their weapons resembling them ever so slightly. One huge disappointing aspect I have with the loot though, is that they play it far too safe for my liking. I would have loved for them to add unique weapons that actually existed within the DC lore, like Mr. Freeze's freeze gun, or Firefly's flamethrower. Weapons like that are iconic and are missing, and I think it's a huge missed opportunity, and I hope sometime in the near future, these things can be added to the game. Weapons in this game already have elemental damage, so additions like that should fit in perfectly. Live service gaming. Since live service games are ever changing and never start off on a good foot, I'm curious to see where Suicide Squad will be in a year or 2 from now. I'm generally curious to see how long Rocksteady plans on supporting this game. Do they expect this to be a 2-year game? A 5 to 8 year game? Because right now I think they have a decent framework for a good live service game, but this game needs massive overhauling and desperate need of variety and mission structure. In my opinion, the campaign's missions were absolutely pathetic, and they'll be lucky if it wasn't so bad that they scared everyone away from a future with this game. I will admit that the game is far better in the endgame, and they take away the stupid requirements to kill enemies, and I found it overall better experience, but it's still not fun in the long term. This game desperately needs content, and fast. More skins should also be obtainable through actually playing the game, or at least give players who play a ton a path to get these paid skins through playing. As of right now, they have as much skins on sale as they do in game, and I can only imagine how much worse it'll get once they have a battle pass and seasons. Honestly, it's a joke. Majority of the in-game skins are garbage anyways, and it's definitely by design to make you pay. Although Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League isn't the worst game I've ever played, it's definitely the worst start to a live service game I've ever witnessed in my life. And it makes Rocksteady come off as lazy and just flat out scummy. In my opinion, if I buy a game, I shouldn't be sold the promise of content. The game should come intact as I bought it, and from here on out, I'm done taking developers at their word. I don't care about seasons, and I don't care about updates. Just sell me a finished game, that is all. And Suicide Squad as it stands currently isn't a finished game, and it isn't worth full price. Overall, 5 out of 10. I came into Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League almost guaranteed to love this game. I'm a massive fan of Batman and DC Comics, and a die-hard fan of the Batman Arkham series. Rocksteady Studios was a development team I've always had complete faith in, and I never thought that they could put out a bad game, but with this release, I was proven wrong. I don't think Suicide Squad's the worst game I've ever played, but I do think that this game in its current form is unfinished and lazy. I could see some people who like looter shooters and live service games being potential fans of this, but for me, I cannot get behind this game. As of right now, it's so mind-numbingly boring and repetitive. It's soulless and feels like a never-ending skin-selling, cash-grabbing machine, with no passion behind it at all. I really hope Rocksteady learns their lessons from this, and goes back to what the fans deserve. I can deal with live service games and looter shooters. I played Destiny for many years, and I'm a huge fan of Borderlands. But this is the laziest and most boring iteration of one I've ever seen in my entire life. The loot itself cannot carry a great looter shooter or live service game. It must be fun to play, and this game is not fun to play. I enjoyed the cutscenes, but the ending itself felt rushed, and whatever seasons and story content they have coming in the future, regardless of it being free or not, does not stand on its own to ever make me want to return and grind this game out in the long term. Rocksteady Studios, I hope you prove me wrong. The ball's in your court. Now thank you guys so much if you stayed the entire time. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is the first negative review I've ever had on this channel. It's a game with a massive identity crisis, it lacks vision, and it comes off as lazy and repetitive at best. There's honestly nothing to keep me coming back, and honestly, I don't think I will. But let me know what you guys think about this. Do you guys plan on giving Suicide Squad a chance? How do you guys feel about killing the Justice League? And how do you feel about Rocksteady switching to the looter shooter genre? Let me know everything in the comment section. Now remember to like, comment, subscribe, do anything you guys can to help me. I am just one guy and I make these videos because it is my passion. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. This has been Drew Spacely. Peace.
Can be a superhero every day by doing the right thing.
Hold up, what the fuck was that? Yeah, this AI is janky as hell. Sorry, one more thing. I wasted a lot of time and energy making this video right here, so please, go check it out.